I love indie games. Let's check this one out. Constance by BTF Games is a metroidvania side-scroller action game that takes clear inspiration from the likes of the other recent successes in the genre, such as the incredible Hollow Knight and Celeste. Let's dive in and see what this is all about. I'm Alakabam from EGC, and it's demo day. The opening screen welcomes us in with a lovely upbeat tune with brass backing, which makes me feel like we're in for a lovely time. Start off at this portal and I immediately begin button mashing. The game switches freely between controller and keyboard inputs based on your last button push, which is lovely. But my favorite thing so far is the super fluid minimap controls. I love how quick and reactive it is to use, and it can even go through the entire map in this little window. So I found a weird little bug right off the bat. I changed the interact keybind to L3 in the pause menu, but the game fails to recognize it and shows the wrong control to interact with the portal. Clicking away and then swapping back to my controller fixes this issue. Tutorial time! You have your basic attack, jump, and dash, which also functions to dodge through enemies and obstacles. There is a very heavy paint theme with our main character. She wields a giant brush, her hair appears to be made of purple paint, and even melts into a little paint puddle during the dash animation, which is awesome. Our energy bar is called our paint bar, and we also have HP. Draining the paint bar entirely will cause us to become corrupted. We will have access to our abilities, but until the paint bar fills back entirely, it drains our health instead of our paint, while our hair turns grayscale, similar to what happens with the inverted mechanic in Clarobscur. I think this is an awesome way of getting around the usual stamina exhaust mechanic, which pushes the player into an annoying labored breath animation, and encourages proactive and potentially creative play. There are even abilities that can be equipped which work while you have the corrupted status, so the developers clearly had it in mind when implementing it. Excellent work, guys. The camera controls in this opening section are a little inconsistent. Note that after I dash through this wall of thorns, I can't look back or control the focus of the camera. I'm at the top section of this map, which is fine, but I also have no control over the camera view in any direction. Immediately in the next area, however, I can move the camera in any direction with the right analog stick. I found a little cubby off the beaten path, and by standing near this glowing light, gain an inspiration. Inspirations are abilities, and check this out. You equip inspirations by placing them wherever they can fit on the gridded sketch paper. God, I love how they are keeping with the artist themes. You can't overlap different sketches, but you can place them anywhere you want. Now, for those seasoned gamers out there, you likely recognize this system as heavily reminiscent of the Navi customization system from the Mega Man Battle Network series. Talking with this robot NPC prompts him to hand me a camera, with which I can take screenshots in specific segments on the map. This tool allows me to save an image that is marked on my map to view at any point later. Useful if I need to remember where certain items or features that I want to visit later on the map are. I like it. These little cubes are the first enemies that I can't either kill or dash through, and this conspicuous death beam is covered by a very similar light, so we'll need something new to deal with this problem. Oh look, something new to deal with our problem. Paint Stab is our first ability that lets us shoot paint out of the brush in any cardinal direction. Blast the Code of Light, but watch out because it does come back after a very short period of time. It's the key to our first puzzle. Trigger the door lights with the Paint Stab, but you need to time them precisely to light it up at around the same time, or it won't open. This robot's center light has him locked into a permanent smile, just like what was demanded of me back when I worked in customer service. This is traumatizing to look at. The elevator is broken and he asks if we can help him, so it's time to platform. From the get-go, the platforming mechanics make use of all your movement and abilities combined with combating enemies. I was pleasantly surprised at how challenging some of the movements and puzzles were to advance through this initial section of the game. But I do have a slight criticism. This is a fairly difficult section of the game's initial platforming. The controls need to be precise, but the dash animation isn't variable. Once you press it, it moves in that direction for a predetermined period, even if you don't hold it. In addition, if you fail an obstacle in one of these longer platforming gauntlets, you will reset back to what the game considers to be solid ground, as opposed to the last stable platform. The platforms that you have the ability to drop through aren't considered reset spots. I die here, but the cool part is that you get two options. Go back to the meditation spot at full health, or continue at 60% health and avoid the walk back, which is what I pick because I'm still sane. Eventually I make it through and get a new inspiration that lets us heal when we hit enemies with a paint stab and a heart piece. Anybody who plays Zelda knows what this is, and it functions the exact same way. By the way, the inspiration text is wrong. Despite saying that it heals us when hitting enemies, it also works on inanimate objects. Drop down and find our first boss, Squashy, which is clearly an homage to the iconic Pixar robot Wall-E. He tries to squash you, but has one vulnerable side which he periodically exposes. At about half health, he enters phase 2 and covers himself in the same light we've had to deal with earlier using paint. I think this fight is perfect. Every mechanic the player has, from basic movements, dash, and the burst stab, are all necessary to complete this fight. He's not overwhelming, but it calls the player to pay attention enough. Hell, I'm John from Soft here, and I died once to this boss. Granted, I only had 60% health, but I think the difficulty level was fantastic as an intro. Unclog the pipes, head back to the smile bot, and the demo is done. So, what's the verdict? You cannot deny that Constance has style. The main character and her abilities are rendered gorgeously, the menu themes are genuinely awesome, combat feels good, and the movement feels great. And on top of that, the ability customization is very unique. I'm not a big fan of how the dash performs similarly to Hollow Knight in that it is a fixed movement, and unlike how it works in Mega Man Zero, where it is a more controlled and fluid action. It makes it much more difficult to certain situations where you need precision to exert proper control over the character, and I think adds a layer of challenge that I don't really like given that it's aiming for precision platforming. Platforming feels like a solid challenge, and I look forward to seeing more of what's in store. The camera controls should be standard no matter where you are in the game. Having a fixed camera in specific zones is irritating when there's no clear reason to have a fixed camera. Now, I didn't mention the plot or money because neither of these play a role throughout the demo, but there is a currency system. If there's a story, it's completely absent, so I won't comment on it, but I'm curious to see how the character powers relate to the overarching plot. Now, the rating. It's a fun, art-themed platformer with the customization of Mega Man and the movement, combat, and exploration of Hollow Knight. So let's call it a digital sketchpad with a picture of the knight in the corner and a smudge of purple paint smeared on the side. Out of 10. Thanks for watching. Our group streams multiple times a week over on Twitch with simulcasts on YouTube over on the main channel through the link in the video. If you enjoyed, like and sub, and I'll see you all in the next one.